Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Building It Online podcast, a podcast all about the successes, failures, and learnings from growing businesses online. Today, we're going to be talking about routines and habits that have helped Mike and I grow our businesses to where they're at now. So if you run any kind of online business, being a productive and efficient individual is some of the most helpful things that I have found. Mike, I know you're the same, right?
Yes, absolutely. There's a handful of things that overlap in my mind for business productivity and personal productivity that all compound on each other to help everything move forward, especially the business orientation of it.
Definitely. I think as like a knowledge worker, your ability to show up and do really good work is so important. It's not like if you have a job, at a bar or being a waiter where you need to like show up at a certain time and just be there. Like, no, you need to show up on time and you need to be able to do like great work every day. And so, yeah, we're going to run through some habits and routines that we've implemented over the last few years that have really helped us. What's your number one habit to go with?
So this actually is a topic I'm really excited about, Brice. We, being in this space, there's so much flexibility that it's almost a downside to have the ability to wake up when you want, to have the ability to wear what you want, to have the ability to have as many clients as you want. In learning over the last decade, there's a handful of things that I've seen that have really helped me almost set boundaries for myself, just mentally, and then carry everything forward at a much stronger pace. The first and most obvious to me is waking up early. Everybody has to know their own personality type and whatnot, but you'll see a million times if you read throughout the internet different productivity hacks and routines that people should get into, and most of them include waking up early. Gives you a chance to like ramp up your day. So you wake up, you don't necessarily have to get up and go to work. I wake up personally between 4:30 and 5 o'clock every morning, and I usually don't get to work until 7:30 or 8. But I wake up, I make some coffee, make some breakfast, take a shower, get ready for the day, and it just gives me time to get that momentum going and then research anything I want. I listen to a podcast typically in the morning. Sometimes I'll watch a little bit of the news or read something in a newspaper, and then eat a healthy breakfast and go to work. But waking up early is definitely my number one. What about yours, Brice?
It's funny that you say that because the number one thing I have on my list over here is my morning routine, because that has been the most effective thing that I have implemented in my personal life that's helped me, I feel like, in every way whatsoever. So for me, waking up early, I used to wake up a little earlier. I used to wake up at like 6:30. I've tried different times. Right now, being in Barcelona, everything's a little later over here, so I typically wake up at like 6:30 or 7. But I know when I wake up, my brain just goes into like auto mode of my routine. And that routine is, wake up, brush my teeth, drink some water, stretch a little bit, go outside and move for a little while, come back and take a shower, do some meditating. I have like a morning kind of priming journaling exercise. It takes me like 5 minutes. And then I'm like ready to rock into the day. And I go straight into like my most focused and creative work early in the morning, because having that morning routine and keeping that really sacred helps me start the day off super easy. I know exactly what I'm going to be doing. And as soon as I'm done, I'm like flowing right into my day and feeling great about it. And that helps me be so productive. Because I remember when I first got started doing this, like my first year of working for myself was like kind of challenging. It's like you're trying to wake up on time and you're waking up at different hours of the morning and you're trying to figure out how to be productive. And when I started implementing a morning routine, it was like having a structure to my morning, which then set the rest of my day off to be successful.
I heard that the other day on a Tim Ferriss podcast that was similar to, if you only have 2 hours to work today, what would you get done? And he went into how his morning routine is all around doing something similar, where he's setting the pace for the day, and then he goes straight into his most productive work just in case something else comes up after and destroys the rest of the day, which happens so frequently.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That happens all the time. And I hear it say like, you can control the beginning of the day and the end of your day, but you really don't have a lot of control about what happens in the middle. And so it's like starting your day off really, really strong and then ending your day off on a good note is like some of the most important work you can do. Because you might have a day, who knows what could happen, but in my line of work, I'm sure with you as well, is like you might have a client fire or something that has to get done, and like your day just goes out of control. But if you control that morning in the end, that makes everything different.
Totally. Cool. Well, my going into number 2 here is exercise. It seems, well, at least in the beginning when I started doing this, it seemed a little bit counterproductive, because I thought that the more I was away from the computer and the less I was working at the company, the less productive that I would be. And I realized that that's a really horrible mentality and mind space to get in, because you only work and you burn yourself out. So one of the things that I started implementing, and for me it is when I wake up early. I wake up, I have some coffee, I go to the gym. But I exercise every day, or at least as much as I can. I typically hit 5-6 days a week. For me, it's about movement, and it's about the mental clarity that you get throughout the rest of the day. So if I know that there's a ton of stuff going on and I don't have a ton of time, I'll go down and like run the stairs 2 times. It takes 15 minutes, right? But there's some sort of movement, there's something productive, and it just gives me that initial feeling of accomplishment to go back into the rest of the morning routine and say like, hey, I already did something. I already checked off this thing from my list. So now I'm that much further ahead than I was prior to. Obviously, if you can work out for, an hour and a half, a little bit more, that's better, but do something in the morning that gets you, up and moving.
No, I would echo that 100%. I think when I got started doing this, I didn't have a habit of exercising regularly. I tried to do things I tried to exercise sometimes, and I would go do runs and stuff, but I never on like a regular basis. And now I realize how important it is to do that, move on a daily basis, move multiple times throughout my day, just to get getting the blood flowing, getting those hormones going. Like if you're sitting at a computer all day, your brain starts to feel stuck, and just going out and taking a walk for like 10 or 15 minutes. I used to just go do laps around my block just to get outside for 10 minutes. And I would do that 3 or 4 times a day. And today I break up my day a lot by, I go out and exercise a little bit in the morning. I might go do some jump rope. I might go do some pull-ups, some push-ups. I might go for a run. And then like I will walk to, I'll go do my morning at a co-working space. I'll come home and do my afternoon somewhere else. I'll take a walk around the block before I do my like third deep work focus time, because I'm trying to just get movement, get my blood flowing, and like get the body going. Exercise is huge. And then the other thing that I would echo is like healthy eating, because I feel like that's a big part of it too. If you're if you're a knowledge worker, like it's not just about showing up, it's about showing up like ready to do really good work. So moving your body, fueling your body with the right stuff so that your brain works. For me, like I drink less than I used to. I smoke less than I used to. I try to go to bed at an early time, because I'm really trying to make sure that when I do have work time, my brain is firing on all cylinders, and I'm ready to get a lot of good work done, and not just kind of show up and sit behind my computer and tap away at the keyboard.
Another big one for me, Brice, is learning. There's a handful of times that I can remember in my entrepreneurship journey that I have been so overwhelmed with work, or so, focused on some of the things that we've got here, like exercising and whatnot, that I haven't carved out time to actually educate myself on things that we're doing. And I can always tell, because I feel like I'm falling behind. So I'll be talking to clients, I'll be, in the Facebook dashboard, changing ads around, and something will be there that I don't recognize, or that I didn't hear about. I didn't read one of the updates that came out. And I realized that I'm not educating myself anymore. So I've put in part of my morning routine to listen to a podcast or read something on the news every single day. And it can be that simple. Or you can go through, a course. Like I have a monthly reminder that goes off in my phone of, did you take any course this month? And it doesn't have to be a course on something specific, but just something generally related to the space that you're working in, to make sure that your mind is expanding, make sure that you're staying educated on the field that you're in, staying knowledgeable about the topics that you speak about on a daily basis. It's important to make sure that you're just learning something every day, making sure your mind is expanding, making sure that you're staying knowledgeable about the topics that you're talking about with your clients on a daily basis. One thing that's been huge for me is, as I'm learning things, thinking about it from a outside point of view and saying, is this something that I actually believe? Obviously, there's a lot of news out there. There's a lot of information out there. The internet makes it so easy to gain information. You have to look at it from a lens of your viewpoint. Does this fit to my life? Is this applicable to things that I do on a daily basis? And then accept the ones that you can use and develop small steps to implement them. And don't accept the ones that you either don't agree with or just aren't relevant to your life. So don't bog yourself down with information that's not going to do anything for you. So
No, I think that's a super good one. I have an Asana task that goes off in my calendar every day that says learn something for 30 minutes. And I do the same thing, like even if it's a podcast or keeping up with blog posts, have a course that I'm going through or training that I'm going through or a book that I'm reading, something. Just kind of keep good ideas coming in. And then, the biggest thing I try to do is just like make sure I'm implementing stuff so that I'm not just like learning and being a sponge, but I'm learning and implementing. That's a really big one for me. One other thing that's helped me a lot is learning how to time block. And more importantly, like learning how to separate the planning from the doing. So I often have found, many times through my journey, like when I sit down, if I sit down at my day and the first question that I ask myself is, okay, what do I need to be doing right now? That's usually not the best recipe for success. So what I try to do is separate my planning from my doing. Kind of like when you're cooking, like you kind of separate the prepping from the cooking, and it makes everything go a lot easier. So I sit down, I make my goals, I know what needs to get worked on for our business, for the clients, everything that's getting worked on, delegate out everything that I can, and then anything that's on my schedule, goes into Asana and then gets time blocked into my calendar so that when I show up for the day, I always have my top 3 tasks for the day, and I always try to write those down the day before, and then I've got everything time blocked in my calendar. So when I show up for the day, I'm just doing what I planned. And there's not a whole lot of deciding what needs to get done or prioritizing at that stage, because that's a big mental task. And so I try to do all of that planning usually twice a week. Usually at the beginning of the week I do it on a Monday, and then usually by Wednesday or Thursday kind of new things have come up and I have to shift stuff around. But just sitting down and time blocking out everything, getting it all to something like Asana so that I don't have to keep up with my own head, and then just working the plan.
That's a great one, and I'm glad you mentioned Asana there, because my next one is lists and making lists. And you saying putting it into Asana so that you don't have to keep it in your head is something that I think I explain to people here once a week, whether it's a personal connection or a business connection or someone that's come to me with questions. But I think the value of taking things out of your brain and putting them onto a list, whether that's a digital list or a paper list or a sticky note, it doesn't matter, putting it down somewhere so that then your brain can release that information and focus on other things is huge. And it clears up so much space to really focus and do the things that you had mentioned earlier and be productive. So for me, my next one is lists. Personally, I use Teamwork. Back when I was an employee of a company, I used Team Gantt, and I bought that just to keep myself on track. And I put everything in there. I put bathe my dog once a week, just to make sure that I don't forget things. But that's because I've been a list user or a project management tool user for so long that it's the moment I think of it, I have to like put it down somewhere, and then I just release it. And then 2 days later, a week later, a month later, whatever, it pops up and reminds me to do that. Last year I was sending out Christmas cards, and as I was doing it, I was like, wow, I'm behind on Christmas cards, so I should just put a task in for October of 2019 to go out and buy Christmas cards again, and that way I can get them while they're cheaper. I can, make small optimizations to my life through reminders and through the digital technology that's out there now.
Yeah, that's insanely valuable. I think that your brain is best used for coming up with like really cool ideas, but not necessarily storing them. At least mine's like that. So I do the same thing, because if I think I heard it from Dan Kennedy, who's, he said like carry a notebook around with you everywhere, because you'll have lots of great ideas, but it's your job to capture them, or else they'll just disappear and you're going to forget about them.
100%.
My next big one that I have really tried to develop a habit around is protecting my focus and really like holding, longer I do this, longer I hold my focus to be something really sacred. So in the morning is my most creative time that I've discovered for me. Like, my mornings are when my brain works the best, when I'm the most creative, when I'm not bogged down by other things. And so when I wake up in the morning, I try really, really hard to not let myself get distracted by anything. I don't check my email. I don't check social media. I don't go on the news. Reddit is like my social media, like website of choice. And I refuse to allow myself to check Reddit until I try not to check it until, anytime after work, if I check it at all one day. I try to really protect my focus and keep it sacred throughout the day, because I know that my ability to do good work, whether it's for myself or for my clients, is really about putting ideas in my brain and letting my brain work through stuff and then coming up with really good solutions, whether that's for ad copy or marketing campaigns or, what we need to be doing to grow the business or whatever it is. And so kind of the way I think about it is I wake up with 100% battery. And as I do stuff throughout the day, that battery gets drained. And sometimes the battery's done at 4 and sometimes the battery's done at 7. But once the battery's done, my brain is done. When I'm sitting at lunch break, if I feel tempted to just check social media or something, I try to not do that. I'll just hang out. Maybe I'll talk to I'm in the co-working space. So maybe I'll talk to someone at the co-working space, have a little chat, but I won't get sucked into something, because I know once I do that, I can feel my brain getting distracted from the things that it's working on. Even if I'm not actually working on something, let's say I'm trying to, we're trying to come up with a new marketing campaign for a client. It's I put that little problem in my brain and my brain's working on it. And as long as I don't get distracted by other stuff, my subconscious is there solving that problem. That's one habit that I've picked up, is really eliminating as many distractions as possible throughout my day. My phone doesn't have any notifications on it. My computer doesn't have any notifications on it. Everything I do is literally built to not get distracted so I can just work on my stuff. And then at the end of the day, I'll allow myself to go on YouTube and, watch videos or jump on social media or whatever it is. But that's, when the day is done and the energy tank has been drained.
It's wild to hear you say this, because it's going to sound like we've planned this entire talk for about the last week. But you being in Barcelona and me being in Seattle, it's not possible for us to sit together and look at each other's screens and see how each other work day in, day out. But I'm the exact same way, where there are 0 notifications that pop up on my computer. I have, reminders in certain places to tell me to go in and check the mail, at certain times, or check the email at certain times in the day, and look through different, messaging apps, things like that, just to make sure that I am staying alert and on top of things, but also giving me control of that time and taking back the control. I remember when I first got into the industry, I had every pop-up on everything, Slack, messages, Gmail, everything would just slide a little notification in that Apple's made so convenient. And I thought it was great because I could respond instantly. I could talk to people, as soon as they sent me something. And I quickly realized that after 8 hours of doing that, I hadn't done any work.
Yeah.
And it completely crushed my productivity. So it's wild to hear that. But it is a really good transition into the last thing I wrote down on my list, which is evaluate everything as a net positive or a net negative. Your 100% battery is another reference that I've actually used a lot in my life, where I tell people that we wake up with this much time and this much energy, and what you do throughout the day in that 24-hour period that you have to be awake that day or to be alive that day is up to you. And if you're allowing things, whether it's a notification to pop up on your desktop that impacts your day in a negative manner, and it might even seem like it's impacting in a positive manner, like I thought it was because I could respond instantly. What I realized retroactively is that it wasn't at all, because I wasn't getting anything done and I wasn't being as valuable as I can to the clients that I was serving. So evaluating that, is it a net positive or a net negative on a regular basis, and looking at everything from the amount of time that you spend on the computer, your diet, your exercise, your friendships, the notifications on your phone, the settings on your computer, things like that. Like, is it helping you achieve the goals that you've set for yourself in your business, or is it actually taking you away from them in a way that you might not see right away? So.
Yeah, no, that's a really good one, man. So on to my last thing that I have on my list. It's funny that because we made these lists separately, but we kind of have a lot of things that are on the same list. The last thing on my list, and this is just my experience with doing, having an online business. And like when I got into this industry as well, I thought, it's an online business. So we're going to do everything online, like we're going to get our clients online. We're going to grow our businesses online. We're going to make money online. We're going to work online. It's going to be fantastic. But while that is really amazing, something that I have gotten in the habit of doing and find to be, I'm a little more introverted, so I will naturally kind of hang out by myself after I've been working all day. But for me, making time to connect with people in real life has been huge in this industry, because while we're building online assets and doing stuff online, most of my friends that I know I've met at networking events. I've met some of the coolest people at networking events. I've had some of the greatest opportunities of my career because of someone that I've met at a party or a function where it's like-minded people gathering in real life and getting to connect with them. Mike, we talk a lot about, we've talked a lot about the Dynamite Circle because that's been a huge influence on me over the last couple of years. I met those guys at an event in Austin, Texas called the Internet Marketing Party, and that was an event that I would go to once a month. I would spend a ton of time at. I got to know all the guys there over the few years, and like that really helped me grow my business, get really involved in this industry, and really start to see like how really successful people in this industry operate at a really high level. And that's all stuff that I couldn't have done from behind my computer screen. So while it seems kind of like the same thing with the exercise, like while it seems counterintuitive to like get away from your computer to grow your business, some of the best connections I've made and the best growth that I've experienced have been the people I've met going to conferences, events, and stuff in different cities for people who are in this industry and are like-minded people. Because every time I do that, my business grows. I'm a happier person. I get really inspired by a lot of the stuff people are doing. And like I become a better person who, is, growing a lot quicker when I'm getting away from, doing Facebook ads and going to this marketing event down the road and meeting people there.
Brice, that's a great point to bring up here. I have gained clients only because I showed up in real life, right? In this space, it's so easy to do everything digitally and have a Zoom call and send over Google Docs and sign documents online. But I have been told a month or two into working with an e-com client that I had that the only reason that I was actually there that day was because I offered to show up. And I was like, hey, let's like sit down and actually discuss this in person. And nobody else did that. That was bidding on the contract. And it's the same thing for all of the clients that I've met over the years that I did start with digitally. When we actually connected in person, the entire relationship after that changed for the better 100% of the time. So just to recap what we went through today, Brice, I'm going to run through my list here. So number 1 is wake up early. Number 2 is exercise frequently. Number 3 is learn everything you can. Anytime you have the ability, go learn something. Number 4 is make a list, whether it's digital or on paper. Just write things down, take it out of your brain. And number 5 is evaluate everything that you do, including the first 4, as a net positive or a net negative, and then make adjustments based on those. How about yours?
Mine were having a morning routine that you stick with every morning, regular exercise and eating healthy so that your brain is fed and working on, firing on all cylinders, time blocking and separating the planning from your doing, protecting your focus so that you're getting your best work done. You don't have notifications and social media and email and all this stuff distracting you. And then making time to connect with people in real life, getting away from the computer, going out, going to events, meeting people in real life, and connecting with people there.
What a great list of things. I'm so stoked we did this. This was a fun episode. If you guys are interested, these are the learnings that we have from today. We'll have another one coming out next week, so stay tuned to the Building It Online podcast. If you want to reach out to either of us, it's Brice Gump and Mike Sebastian on Facebook.
And if you like this episode, please be sure to leave us a review on the Apple iTunes store because, that helps us and we know what you like and we can do more of these. And so really appreciate a review. And hit us up on the social medias and we'll be coming at you again next week with another episode of the Building It Online podcast.